21 years old when I was told I was adopted. And when you're told that you're adopted, I mean, that's the biggest concern of your life. You don't care where you really come from at the moment because
Elvis Aaron Presley, a name that would later become synonymous with the king of rock and roll, had humble beginnings that were shaped by love, loss, and perseverance. His early years in Tupelo, Mississippi, set the stage for a life that would captivate millions and leave a lasting legacy in the world of music. Born on January 8, 1935, Elvis entered the world in a modest two-room house, the youngest son of Vernon and Gladys Presley. His birth, however, was marked by tragedy, as he was born as the second of twins, with his brother, Jesse Garon Presley, stillborn just before him. The loss of his twin would cast a shadow over the Presley family, but it was also a moment that strengthened the bond between Elvis and his mother, Gladys, who would go on to be one of the most significant influences in his life. A family devoted to Elvis. Growing up in Tupelo, a small town in northern Mississippi, Elvis's early years were filled with love and devotion from both his parents. Despite the financial struggles the family faced, they were determined to provide a stable and nurturing environment for their only son. Elvis's childhood was far from lavish. They lived in a small two-room house that was often overcrowded with relatives and extended family members who came and went. The close-knit nature of the Presley household meant that Elvis grew up in a community-oriented environment, always surrounded by family who supported and cared for him. Despite the hardships that came with living in a town that was economically depressed during the Great Depression, Elvis was never short on love. His parents did their best to make ends meet, and Elvis was always the focus of their attention. As they moved from house to house in pursuit of a better life, they never wavered in their dedication to each other. It was this unwavering sense of family loyalty that would play a critical role in shaping Elvis into the man he would become, someone who, despite fame, never forgot his roots and the people who helped him get there. The influence of music and faith. From a very young age, Elvis was immersed in music. It wasn't just a form of entertainment for him, it was a way of life. His earliest musical experiences were shaped by the hymns he heard in church and the sounds of gospel music that filled his home. Gladys Presley, a devout woman with a deep love for gospel music, took Elvis to the Assembly of God Church in Tupelo. Here, he was exposed to the fervent, passionate singing that characterized Southern gospel music, which had a profound impact on him. This religious upbringing not only fostered a deep connection to music, but also shaped the spirituality that would remain a central part of Elvis's character throughout his life. As a young boy, Elvis quickly became captivated by music of all kinds. He listened to gospel tunes at church, but he also found himself drawn to the soulful blues music that his African-American neighbors played in the streets of Tupelo. It wasn't long before Elvis began to internalize these different musical influences, blending the emotional intensity of gospel with the raw, earthy rhythms of blues. This combination would later define his distinctive musical style, a fusion of genres that captivated audiences around the world. Elvis's ability to absorb music from his environment was remarkable. In addition to gospel and blues, he was also influenced by the popular country and Western music that permeated the radio waves. Artists like Hank Williams, Jimmy Rogers, and Bill Monroe were some of the country legends who shaped Elvis's early sound. Elvis's love for music wasn't confined to just one genre. It was the blending of these influences that made his music so unique and revolutionary. Early performances, a glimpse of greatness. One of the defining moments in Elvis's early musical career came on October 3, 1945, when he was just 10 years old. At the Mississippi-Alabama Fair and Dairy Show Talent Contest in Tupelo, Elvis took to the stage for the very first time. Standing on a chair to reach the microphone, he performed Old Shep, a song that he had heard on the radio. Though he only earned 5th place and a handful of tickets for the fair rides, it was a significant moment in his life. The experience sparked something deep inside Elvis and gave him a glimpse of the possibilities that lay ahead. Even though his prize was small, the applause he received that day planted a seed that would grow into a career that would change the face of music. As Elvis grew older, he continued to hone his musical skills. But his journey to fame wasn't without obstacles. Like many working-class families in the 1940s and 1950s, the Presleys faced financial hardships. By 1947, the Presleys were struggling to make ends meet, and Elvis, feeling the pressure, began to take on small jobs to help ease the financial burden on his parents. It was during this time that Gladys helped Elvis purchase his first guitar from Tupelo Hardware Company. The modest $13 guitar, which was far from the shiny, expensive instruments that many musicians dreamed of, would prove to be the key that unlocked Elvis's musical future. Moving to Memphis, a new chapter. In 1948, in search of better opportunities, the Presley family made the difficult decision to leave Tupelo behind and move to Memphis, Tennessee. At the time, Memphis was a bustling city, full of opportunity, but it was also a place where many families struggled to make a living. The Presleys, however, were not deterred. They moved to the North Memphis area, a part of town that was home to many working-class families. Elvis, now a teenager, enrolled at Humes High School, where he continued to nurture his musical talents. While Memphis offered new opportunities, it also presented new challenges. The Presleys had to contend with the realities of life in public housing, where they lived for several years. Financial stress continued to haunt the family, and Elvis's parents worked multiple jobs to make ends meet. Despite their best efforts, life in Memphis was still tough for the young Presley family. However, even in these difficult circumstances, Elvis found solace in music. He began performing for his classmates at Humes High School, and it wasn't long before he became known for his distinct voice and his unique style. In one memorable talent show performance, Elvis took the stage with his guitar and played a rendition of "Leaf on a Tree." His classmates were captivated by his performance, and he won the contest, marking the beginning of his rise to stardom. But this success was only the beginning. The spark of fame. A serendipitous recording. After graduating from Humes High School in 1953, Elvis found himself at a crossroads. With no clear direction, he began working at the Parker machinist shop to help support his family. However, fate had other plans. That summer, Elvis walked into the Memphis recording service, later known as Sun Records, where he paid $4 to record 2 songs, "My Happiness" and "That's When Your Heartaches Begin." Elvis, hoping to gift a song to his mother, had no idea that this small, personal gesture would set him on a path to superstardom. Sam Phillips, the founder of Sun Records, listened to the recording and immediately saw something special in Elvis's voice. Phillips, who had worked with blues musicians and had a keen ear for talent, recognized that Elvis had a unique sound that could transcend the traditional genres of the time. It wasn't long before Phillips began working with Elvis, and a new era in music was about to begin. The rise of Elvis Presley. Breaking through. By 1955, Elvis was beginning to attract attention with his unique sound and captivating stage presence. His music blended the blues, gospel, and country genres, creating a new style that would come to be known as rockabilly. His electric energy and raw talent caught the attention of Colonel Tom Parker, a manager who would later help propel Elvis to international fame. In 1955, Parker secured a deal for Elvis with RCA Records, which would soon prove to be a pivotal moment in his career. Elvis's rise to stardom in 1956 was nothing short of meteoric. He released his first album, Elvis Presley, which quickly became a smash hit, topping the charts and earning him a Gold Album Award. His single, Heartbreak Hotel, became his first #1 hit, solidifying his status as a household name. The media took notice of his charismatic personality and bold style, which included his famous dance moves, such as his gyrating hips, which created both excitement and controversy. Despite criticism from conservative groups, Elvis's popularity only grew stronger. He appeared on television shows like The Milton Berle Show and The Ed Sullivan Show, where his performances generated an unprecedented level of excitement. The controversy surrounding his provocative dance moves only fueled his fame, and by the end of 1956, Elvis Presley had become a global sensation. His influence on music, culture, and fashion was immeasurable, and he was on the fast track to becoming a cultural icon. The Ed Sullivan Show and its unprecedented impact. Elvis Presley's appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show in 1956 marked a defining moment in his career. While Sullivan himself was absent from the stage due to a car accident, Charles Lawton hosted the episode, and it became an unforgettable night in television history. Elvis's performance, which showcased his unparalleled stage presence and magnetic charisma, drew an astonishing 80% of the national television audience. At the time, no one could have predicted the monumental impact Elvis's rise would have on both American culture and the global entertainment industry. The cultural phenomenon known as Elvis Presley mania was now in full swing, with fans captivated by every move Elvis made. His blend of rock and roll, rhythm and blues, and gospel music, combined with his sultry looks and unforgettable performances, made him a trailblazer for an entire generation. His appearance on Sullivan solidified his status as a pop culture icon. It was not just the music that captivated people, but the way he carried himself, confident, charismatic, and always unapologetically himself. His famous dance moves, however, caused a stir in some conservative circles, with his gyrating hips seen as scandalous and too suggestive for the more conservative American audiences. But this backlash only fueled his popularity among younger fans, sparking a cultural revolution. Tupelo Homecoming, the birth of Elvis Presley Day. Less than 2 months after his breakthrough on The Ed Sullivan Show, on September 26, 1956, Elvis returned to his hometown of Tupelo, Mississippi, for a celebration that would become legendary. The city declared that day Elvis Presley Day, and the streets were flooded with ecstatic fans, eager to catch a glimpse of their hometown hero. Elvis, joined by his family, performed 2 shows at the very same venue, the Mississippi-Alabama Fair and Dairy Show, where he had once performed as a young boy. In his early years, Elvis had stood on that same stage, dreaming of something greater, never imagining that years later he would return to the town that shaped him as a star. The excitement was palpable, so much so that the National Guard was called in to help control the massive crowds. Elvis's hometown celebration was a testament to how far he had come and how deeply he had touched the hearts of those who had witnessed his rise. The atmosphere was electric, a mixture of pride, adoration, and reverence for the man who had turned the world upside down with his music and presence. This homecoming in Tupelo became an iconic moment in the Elvis saga, one that would resonate with his fans for years to come. Merchandising and the birth of the Elvis brand. By now, the cultural wave that was Elvis Presley mania had reached new heights. From hats to t-shirts to jeans, Elvis's face was emblazoned on countless pieces of merchandise. This marked the beginning of the commercial aspect of his fame. Elvis was not just a music star, he had become a brand, His manager, Colonel Tom Parker, was instrumental in turning Elvis into a merchandise powerhouse. Together, they saw the potential in turning Elvis into a commodity, capitalizing on the frenzy surrounding him. In the years that followed, every product imaginable seemed to bear the King's likeness. The Elvis brand was unstoppable, and Colonel Parker knew how to capitalize on it. It was a pioneering move in celebrity merchandising that would change the way entertainment figures were marketed for generations to come. Elvis's face on everything from lunchboxes to posters to clothing became a symbol of his unmatched popularity and cultural impact. Big screen debut and the impact of Love Me Tender. On November 15, 1956, Elvis made his highly anticipated big screen debut with Love Me Tender, which premiered at the Paramount Theater in New York City. Set during the Civil War, the film was a dramatic departure from Elvis's musical roots, offering a glimpse into his acting chops. While the film's reception was mixed, with some critics less than impressed, there was no denying Elvis's presence. His acting, though still developing, was compelling enough to make audiences take him seriously as more than just a rock and roll star. The movie was a commercial success, and even critics found little to criticize in his performance. As a result, Elvis solidified himself as a multi-talented star. His transition from music to film was not an easy one for many musicians to achieve, but Elvis's natural charisma and screen presence made the transition seem effortless. In fact, the success of Love Me Tender marked the beginning of an entire era where Elvis would be synonymous not just with music, but also with Hollywood stardom. The power of merchandise and cultural influence. By the end of 1956, the sheer scale of Elvis's success was undeniable. On December 31st of that year, the Wall Street Journal featured him on its front page, declaring that merchandise bearing his name had earned a staggering $22 million in sales. In an era where celebrity culture was just beginning to gain momentum, Elvis had changed the game, turning his image into a global phenomenon. It was not just about his music anymore. It was about the aura of Elvis Presley, his style, his mannerisms, his ability to captivate millions. This was the year Elvis transcended the role of just a musical artist. He became a defining figure in American youth culture. His success gave rise to an entire subculture that embraced his rebellious spirit, and his music was the soundtrack to a new generation. Elvis's persona became the embodiment of youthful defiance and exuberance, helping to shape the cultural landscape for decades to come. Global recognition and the influence of Elvis. While Elvis was dominating the American entertainment scene, his fame was spreading far beyond the borders of the United States. In the Soviet Union, his records were being sold on the black market. The ironic part of this? Since his music was unavailable through official channels in the USSR, fans would cut his songs onto discarded X-ray plates, creating bootleg copies of his albums. These bootlegs were sold at a premium, for 50 rubles, an exorbitant price at the time, equivalent to about $130 in today's money. Despite the Iron Curtain, Elvis's music found a way into the hearts of Soviet citizens, further cementing his status as a global icon. Back in the US, his Christmas album shattered records, topping the charts for an entire month and selling an astonishing 20 million copies. The cultural phenomenon that was Elvis Presley had reached its peak. His music, his image, and his influence had permeated every corner of society. Songs like Jailhouse Rock, Can't Help Falling in Love, and Blue Suede Shoes became timeless anthems, continuing to captivate fans of all generations. The draft and personal struggles. However, not everything in Elvis's life was a series of triumphs. In 1957, the King of Rock and Roll faced a major turning point in his career. He was drafted into the United States Army. This was a momentous decision for Elvis, who had already become a global superstar. While many believed that his career would falter during his time in service, Elvis's military experience proved to be a period of personal growth. In March 1958, he reported to the Memphis Draft Board and was soon whisked away to Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, for basic training. The military experience, while challenging, allowed Elvis a break from the limelight, but also gave him time to mature and reflect on his meteoric rise. He would spend 6 months in basic training, followed by an assignment at Fort Hood, Texas. During his brief time off, Elvis returned to the studio to record A Big Hunk o' Love, further proving his dedication to his craft. Tragedy strikes: the death of Gladys Presley. While stationed in Germany, Elvis received the heartbreaking news that his mother, Gladys Presley, had fallen ill. She had been diagnosed with acute hepatitis and was rushed to the hospital in Memphis. Elvis, who had always been incredibly close to his mother, was devastated. He was granted emergency leave to be by her side, and despite the emotional toll it took on him, he managed to make the long journey back to Memphis. On August 14, 1958, just after Elvis had returned to Graceland for a brief rest, he received the devastating news that his mother had passed away at the age of 46. The grief was overwhelming for Elvis, who had always relied on Gladys's love and support. Her sudden death left a void in his life that would never fully be filled. Yet, despite his immense sorrow, Elvis had to continue with his military duties. It was a testament to his strength and resilience that he managed to carry on during such a difficult time. A new love. Meeting Priscilla. During his time in Germany, Elvis found solace in a new relationship with a young woman named Priscilla Beaulieu. Priscilla, who was just 14 years old when they met, was the daughter of Captain Joseph Beaulieu, who was stationed at the U.S. Air Force Base in Wiesbaden, Germany. Their relationship began as a friendship, but over time, it blossomed into a romantic connection that would change both of their lives forever. Priscilla and Elvis communicated through letters, and their relationship grew stronger as time went on. In 1967, they married in a private ceremony in Las Vegas, and Priscilla soon became an integral part of Elvis's life. The couple would go on to have one child together, a daughter named Lisa Marie Presley, who would later become famous in her own right. Elvis's return to the spotlight. Elvis's return from military service in 1960 was nothing short of triumphant. Despite fears that his time away from the music scene would diminish his star power, he quickly reclaimed his position at the top of the charts. Songs from his GI Blues album soared in popularity, and films like Blue Hawaii and Viva Las Vegas kept his name in the public eye. By the late 1960s, however, Elvis's film career was beginning to wane. Audiences were losing interest in the formulaic movies he was making, and critics began to question his musical direction. But in 1968, Elvis made one of the most remarkable comebacks in entertainment history with his iconic television special, known as the '68 Comeback Special. This special revitalized his career, showcasing his incredible vocal talents and his ability to connect with audiences. It was a moment that proved Elvis Presley was far from done. He was, indeed, still the king of rock and roll. The personal struggles of the 1970s. Despite his professional resurgence, Elvis's personal life began to unravel. His marriage to Priscilla suffered due to infidelity and growing tensions, ultimately leading to their separation. The pressures of fame, coupled with his reliance on prescription drugs, began to take a toll on his health. Elvis, once known for his slim physique and boundless energy, struggled with weight gain and fatigue. By the mid-1970s, Elvis's health had deteriorated significantly, and it became clear that the man who had once been a symbol of vitality and youth was now fighting for his life. In 1977, he performed his last concert in Indianapolis, but little did he know that this would be his final performance before his untimely death. The tragic death of the king. On August 16, 1977, at the age of just 42, Elvis Presley passed away at Graceland from heart failure. His death shocked the world and left millions of fans mourning the loss of their beloved king of rock and roll. Elvis was laid to rest at Graceland, beside his mother, Gladys, his father, Vernon, and his grandmother. The grounds at Graceland became a place of pilgrimage, where fans from around the world gathered to pay tribute to the man who had changed music, culture, and entertainment forever. On the day of his passing, floral deliveries to Graceland broke records, with over 3,100 orders placed. His funeral, held 2 days later, was attended by thousands of fans, some of whom lined the streets of Memphis to say their final goodbyes. The white Cadillac hearse, carrying his rose-covered casket, became an enduring symbol of the love and admiration that fans still hold for Elvis Presley to this day. Elvis Presley may have left the world at a young age, but his legacy continues to live on. His music, his style, and his influence have had a lasting impact on the world, and he remains one of the most significant cultural figures of the 20th century.